And again, my name is Lori-Kate Pyle. This is Cody, if we haven't met yet. And this week we're starting again with the best part. So if we can invite Shanae and Hun up right now. Thank you. And Graham, he's working on the handouts. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Today, I want to share the lowest point of my marriage and how we were able to break through that challenging time. Hyun and I have been married for 21 years, and we have 3 beautiful daughters. 7 or 8 years ago, when the kids were young, our family started camping, and soon it turned into intense hiking. We started with 4 miles a day and became 13 miles that took 12 hours. Taking one step further, our family trip turned into backpacking trips where we had to carry a 20-pound backpack for 3 days. So we even tried to climb Mount Whitney, which is the highest mountain in 48 states. So my husband was very passionate and setting plans 6 months ahead to win this fierce competition for park reservations and planning a trip every 2 or 3 months. Over 4 years, we visited 23 national parks, including all 9 in California and other state parks too. On the surface, we were the perfect and adventurous family. However, I didn't realize at the time that behind those amazing journeys, a crisis was building up in my marriage. Somewhere along the way, I started getting easily annoyed at my husband, with an unconscious anger building up inside me. So even in daily life, after a trip, just seeing my husband's face would trigger my irritation. So I did tell him I was tired, but I never dared to say I want to stop. I genuinely believe that these tough trips were instilling important qualities like patience and grit in my children. I thought that as long as it was a good thing for the family, I had to keep going. And I didn't realize my honest feeling that I hated the long, tiring hikes, and it doesn't help our family. I believe that putting aside my own feelings to support what Hyun wanted to do for the best of family was the role of a good wife. So I was not able to admit that I wasn't enjoying the long hike, and it was severely disrupting my life. Looking back, my inability to do that was deeply connected to how I was raised. I was raised in a quiet, conflict-free home. My parents never fought in front of me, which was a blessing, but it meant I never learned how to resolve a conflict in a healthy way. Instead, seeing my mother constantly adjust to my father's wishes instilled the subconscious belief that I must sacrifice for the family's peace and well-being. This caused me immense stress whenever my husband and I had arguments. I was not able to hold my frustrations very well, and after stuffing in several times, I exploded at my husband from time to time. I thought that finding a solution that satisfied both of us was impossible. I only saw 2 options: enjoy it or break the peace in an unhealthy way, which is showing frustration or anger. As my frustration toward my husband grew, he too became exhausted by my unexplained anger. When I lost my temper over small things, he would retreat into the other room to binge watch Netflix or YouTube. Then one day, my husband confessed, I want to live somewhere other than this house. It was his honest, painful admission that he couldn't endure the cycle of fighting anymore. So he later clarified that he meant living in a tent in the backyard. But the emotional blow was devastating. The home I believed to be safe and unshakable was collapsing under my feet. So during this time, our pastor Chip at that time preached a sermon series called I Choose Peace. Listening to sermon, I focused on Philippians 4:5. Let your gentleness be evident to all. Chip emphasized our relationship being right is more important than me being right. To this, it takes huge humility. Up until then, I believed my anger was justified because I thought my husband was doing something wrong to me. But I realized that the lack of peace in our home began not with my husband, but with me. The one consumed by frustration and anger. The first step to change was stopping the blame and humbly acknowledging that I need to change. I decided to apply determination, the D in ABCD, for anger management that Lori-Kate and Cody covers today. Although I didn't yet know the root cause of my fury, I was determined to stop reacting in anger. Every morning during prayer, I asked the Holy Spirit for help and made a specific commitment. Today, I will be kind to my husband and daughters. As I repeated this routine daily, my family began to notice the shift in me. Not long after, our difficult hiking chapter came to an end after climbing Mount Whitney. So I declared I'm done with hiking. And to my astonishment, I later realized that my frustration towards Hyun had significantly decreased. Years later, when I joined the Venture Marriage community, the training to examine my feelings, what I truly want, in moments of conflict, finally brought clarity. Oh, I was so angry at my husband because I hated those long, difficult hikes. I finally understood that my anger stemmed from an unmet expectation, that my expectation for Hyun to stop difficult hiking and backpacking, and my desire to have a restful family vacation, which I failed to communicate honestly. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was the source of my suffering, so just seeing him fueled my rage. If I had known how to recognize my feelings and met expectations sooner, peace would have come to our home much earlier. I am thankful that even in these difficulties, God protected and restored our marriage. Also, I am grateful for this growth and so thankful that we better manage our emotions, especially anger. And Hyun and I are really grateful for our wonderful Venture Marriage community. And we give thanks and glory to God. Thank you.
How can you not remember?
If you can't tell, Shanae poured her heart out here, and she doesn't like the spotlight. This vulnerability and sacrifice, and just the beauty to see that if you want to see a stuffer and how they went through anger, this is how it can happen. So marriages are healed. Like Dan was saying, marriages are healed and if you do the work. So Hyun thought that Shanae did such a good job that he wasn't going to have to speak. If you can give him the microphone, please. And so we said, no, we'd like to hear from him as well. So as you heard, Shanae is a stuffer who sometimes has the explosions, and Hyun is a stuffer, but he's going to talk to you about his anger. So Hyun, can you share how your anger was expressed when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, I think I saw my parents, how they handle their conflicts and anger. And my mom was generally kind of stuffing it, but I saw my dad exploding when he was very angry, and there were some physical stuff happening as well. Some objects getting broken and stuff. And one day I even ran away from home because I was so scared. So that was still quite vivid in my memory. So I felt that anger is very dangerous and destructive. Yeah.
Thank you, Hyun. And two more questions this time. Did you think you had an anger problem? And secondly, when you were upset with Shanae, how did you typically respond?
I had this very strong belief that I am at the higher ground, handling this much better than her. Like, oh, she cannot contain her emotion, but I'm so cool. Like, I keep it down. I contain it until I can express it or like mend the relationship. So binge watching is how I just distance myself and quote unquote control. But yeah, I thought I was really like solving it right way. But looking back, or even then, like my kids were saying, I look so scary. Yeah. So I thought they're not getting it, but now I understand what they mean. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And since attending Venture Marriage and doing the CHIP series, how do you express your anger now?
I think I had some transformational learning in the last couple of years. So emotion has to be understood and communicated. It's very hard for my partner to understand or guess what I'm going through. And it also doesn't help the relationship. So I started to be vulnerable. Like when I'm not happy and I need something from my wife, I started to verbalize it rather than like I stay cool and like I sort it out myself. So yeah, I think I started expressing, I feel something. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Can we thank them both again? And we need Hyun to set up the screen in the back.
It's on. Oh, we don't have. We
don't
have them in the back and not up front.
Here, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Hyun and Shanae, for that. That is a powerful testimony. It is such a blessing to see how this venture marriage is working in marriages. Okay. My question for you now is, how are you and your spouse doing with anger? Have you tried using any of the tools presented so far? As previously mentioned, common struggles are stopping from getting angry, stopping from saying sarcastic comments, expressing when initially upset before withdrawing or exploding. Okay, what can we do to manage our anger? Let's look at additional practical tools we can use. We will be in the study guides again, sessions 5 and 6, beginning on page 36. Okay, we get back to the question, is anger good or bad? If you wanted to ride a horse, which of these would you want to ride? Many of us have experienced anger more like the left picture, an out-of-control wild stallion. However, we hope that you are becoming open to the fact that anger can also be your friend if used under control and harnessed for good, as we see in the picture on the right. How do we do this? What are the basics to understanding my anger? Chip and Dr. Johnson use the ABCD method. The ABCDs may look oversimplified, but it does provide practical steps that can be very effective. A is for acknowledge the anger. For stuffers and leakers such as myself, this is the most difficult step. I am trying to deny or avoid that there even is anger. And if I skip this step, at some time I'm going to be leaking. It's a very conscious step to admit and accept that I am angry. As I mentioned previously, this is where I benefited from our relationship. Since Lori-Kate recognizes emotions more quickly, I have given her permission to let me know when she sees anger in me and I'm not acknowledging it. This has been great for both of us. B is for backtrack to the primary emotion. For some of us, emotions are tough to begin with. When I look, I often don't easily see the emotion that I am feeling. Just as in acknowledge, Lori-Kate often helps me because she often sees the emotion before I do. Also note, it does not say the first emotion. For spewers, the first emotion is anger. However, we've learned that anger is a secondary emotion. Lori-Kate has learned that it's often the second or even the third emotion that is the real issue. The first emotion may be anger, but then there is hurt, and for her, there's usually something even under that. As previously discussed, it's important to see which of the three buckets emotions are being felt: hurt, frustration, or threat. C is for consider the real cause of your anger. This is the step that Lori-Kate spends the most time on, considering why she is hurt. For her, journaling is one of the ways she works on consider. She will journal all the feelings she is feeling out in order to get them out and consider what and why. Sometimes she realizes that she's really upset at herself and something else triggered her emotions. All right, finally, finally, D is for determine. How best to deal with the emotions you are feeling. What course of action should you take? We know one stuffer who spends most of her time on this step. After acknowledging her anger, understanding the emotion behind it, and gaining clarity on the situation, she would then struggle with what to do about it. Naturally, she tends to avoid conflict. But for all of us, there are times when we need to take action. Just as we each have an anger mask or style, each of us typically struggles with one of these letters more than the others. Here's a positive example of how I've used these ABCDs for good. We were about to go on a bike ride. I know I have a lot of bike ride stories, but this time it's not the Charger. Lori-Kate lifted up my backpack and asked, "Is it supposed to be leaking?" We use hydration backpacks, and I found that I need to be careful when I put the cap back on or it will leak. I'm familiar with this, and I know how easy it is to get it on incorrectly, so I try to take extra care to get it on. But obviously this time I hadn't done right. It was leaking like crazy. I stopped and acknowledged my anger. I didn't deflect or try to deny the anger as I might have previously done. I said, "No, it's not supposed to be leaking. I'm frustrated about it." Lori-Kate knew I was angry, So she gave me space to feel and deal with my anger. Once I acknowledged the anger, I backtracked to realize I was frustrated at myself for not putting the cap back on correctly. Reviewing from last week, this was a menial attack targeted at my insecurity. Once past that, I considered that although I tried to put her on correctly, it just hadn't worked. I did it wrong. Admitting I am wrong has been an issue for me, but once I got that, the emotion and the frustration was gone. Determining how to respond then was easy. I went back inside, refilled it, and I made double sure the cap was correctly on. We went on to have a great bike ride. Now, shout out to bike riding. As you've heard, we get lots of opportunity to deal with these things, so you might want to try bike riding. Okay, let's get more practical about these steps, and I'll turn it over to Lori-Kate.
Thank you, baby. And it's not working. I'll just have to, Helen, I'll just, oh, you got it working? Oh, he can get it working. Great. So Cody just discussed the ABCDs. And remember, this is what Shanae helped to use with her anger. So when you're trying to determine, there's now these questions that you use to help you determine. The first one is who? Who are you mad at? It's easy to think it's the other person, but as Cody just described, it was himself, and that's often the case with me. Or are you just mad at God for letting the situation happen? The next W is what? What should you do? Now, as a spewer, in my personality, I want to do this directly. But with leakers and stuffers, the direct approach is not always the best way to do it. So evaluate what's going to be the best for these particular circumstances. The next one is H. Oh, you're going. The next one is H, or how. Yep, and one more. Yes. Thank you, Hyun. Thank you, baby. How? Do you deal with this directly in person? Of course, that's my favorite, but perhaps writing something down might be better for you and the other person to process it. Or you may want to actually call a trusted Christian brother or sister and reason things out with them. Now, next please. In the handout, you're going to see a chart, which is the continuum of ways to express anger. Now, it's really easy to see on the left that spewers, it never works, but this is what we often have done. So, what can spewers do to express anger in a healthy way? Next slide, please. You need to get it out, but don't get it out through screaming. What I have found is that when I am angry, most people never hear the words, they only feel the feelings of me getting upset at them. So it's very unproductive. And perhaps you want to have a written communication and then have someone review it before you send it. But yes, you do still need to get it out. Now, what about the other side of, and click please, what about the other side of the spectrum? One more please, thank you. As Shanae shared, essentially she was grinning and bearing it, right? And you heard how it affected her marriage. Stuffers either tend to, and leakers, will have implode, meaning that they internalize the anger and can sometimes get health issues. Or, as Shanae described, you stuff it for so long, you eventually explode. And that's what Cody would do as well. Next slide, please. So, how can stuffers and leakers find ways to express their anger in a more healthy way? If you can't do it directly, then redirect and release it. Maybe you call someone else and reason it out. My favorite way is working out or cleaning. I have to get the emotion out of me. There are many ways to do it. And on the next slide, what you'll see is the continuum of both sides, right? What do you want to do this? Now, I know often when I'm angry, I think there's only one way to express it. But look at all the different options that you have. Now, next slide, please. So we're getting back to how do you determine what to do. We went over who, what, how, and when. So now is when. As you can imagine, my first response is now, right? And this is how our relationship has really helped us, because Cody's like, maybe we should take a beat on this and consider what we should do, right? But never dealing with it is not the answer either. Now, in the handout, there is a table there that I'd like you to do now, and it asks you questions about what is your tendency. Very purposely, the answers are yes or no. What we'd like you to do is quickly answer what you usually do or what you'd like to do, because the point of the table is to figure out which side of the spectrum that you're on and what do you need to do. And again, we'd invite you to just do your first gut reaction. Now, I want to share about how I have used the ABCDs in this situation, in our marriage. Some background. My trigger is feeling unsafe. Cody's trigger is being wrong. And I've been dealing with a medical issue for over 3 years, and there's a lot of heartache with going to new doctors. So Cody was driving me to a new doctor appointment. My girlfriend, who's a spewer, decided to call me rather than spewing at her husband. So I was supporting her. And then I asked what support she wanted from me, and she said, "Can you pray for me?" And I said, "Sure." I close my eyes and I start praying. All of a sudden, Cody slams on the brakes. I hear all the sensors in the car going off, and I open my eyes, and we are quickly approaching this car in front of us. I look at Cody, and he goes, this was the moment when I knew that I could control my spewing. I closed my eyes, and I kept praying to my girlfriend, and she never knew anything had happened. After I was done praying for her, I kept praying for me. So what I did, A, obviously I knew I was angry. B, I knew I was angry, but what was the real emotion that I was looking at? Well, I was terrified for almost crashing, but the real emotion I needed to see was that I was anxious about going to this new doctor's appointment. So, C, now for those of you who know the 3 chairs, what I do here is, because I am severely in the judgment seat that I am right, he is wrong, and he needs change, is I jump over to step 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 3 chairs to get out of the judgment seat. Then I come back and consider the cause. Considering the cause. Cody was driving me to the doctor's appointment. He didn't want me to be scared. He's a very safe driver, and by the way, we did not crash. I don't know what happened, right? So then D, what was I going to do? Who was I mad at? It was pretty easy. What I wanted to do, of course, was direct, but okay, I haven't gotten to the other steps yet. How should I manage it? Of course, I wanted to talk to him about it, but when should I deal with it? And I realized I needed to just take a few breaths and realize that my part, like Shanae clearly talked about, was I was anxious. So what I said to him, and I said, "Baby, I was scared when I opened my eyes and I saw us approaching that car really quickly. I've realized that I'm really anxious about going to this doctor's appointment. Would you be willing to have a bigger gap with the car in front of us so I can work on my anxiety while we're driving there?" Note, I let go of wanting an apology because I realized that what I needed was to reduce my anxiety. He said yes, and then he apologized. So now we're going to go on to session 6 on page 40, and I'm going to give it back to Cody to talk about how men and women get angry.
All right. Chip and Dr. Johnson quote these statistics. The average man loses his temper about 6 times per week, whereas the average woman loses her temper about 3 times per week. Men tend to get mad about things. Women tend to get mad about relationships. And because we tend to get mad about different things, this can also be a source of conflict. Okay, what does the Bible say about how to manage our anger?
Click, sorry, Hyun, he's able to do it, I'm not.
James 1:19 is possibly the most familiar verse on anger. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. God has given us anger and wants us to use it. Our part is using it properly. This verse provides us with a 3-step process.
Click.
Step 1 of God's anger management plan is to be quick to listen. Most of us naturally fall into the reactionary responder. It seems being a receptive listener is not natural and something we have to work on. Do we fully listen to all what somebody is saying? Are we able to reflect on all that they have said? I have worked on this, and it has made a huge difference in our relationship. When Lori-Kate knows she has been listened to and feels heard, we both are happier. The key question is, what is anger telling me? For some of us, anger comes immediately. Others struggle to identify. In any case, the first step is listening. Next slide, please. Step 2 of God's anger management plan is be slow to speak. Naturally, most of us want to blurt out our response as soon as we think we know what the other person is talking about, often before they've even finished what they're saying. What God wants us to do is wait. Be slow to speak. Okay, yeah. Chip and Dr. Johnson use this phrase, verbal reflex response. Yuck. Doesn't that sound awful? Personally, I do not want to be known as a verbal reflex responder. Easier said than done, though. As a leaker, my verbal reflex response is to defend myself. For Lori-Kate, verbal reflex response is spewing words. Regardless of our own personal reaction, it takes effort to develop the good habit of being slow to speak. In the handout, there are additional Bible verses for reflection on this.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, please. All right. Step 3 of God's anger management plan is be slow to anger. Our life-changing response to our anger begins when we replace reaction with reflection. Anger can't take control of us if we don't react in anger. If we pause and reflect on the emotions behind the anger, we will have a thoughtful response instead of a knee-jerk reaction. Instead of stuffing or leaking out our anger, we can feel the feelings and look at what needs to be addressed. The key question is, what is the root issue behind this anger? This gives us reminders of what Craig led us through 2 weeks ago. Anger is a secondary emotion. Our question is, what is behind the anger? All right, back to Lori-Kate.
Thank you, baby. Next slide, please. For those of you who were here last week, you're going to recognize this slide. This is, again, pulling together the tools. So you've done the ABCDs to determine what you want to do. You've gone through the W questions to figure out how you want to respond. Once you understand your feelings, then you look at the 3 tools. So if you're feeling hurt, then we recommend that you use the tool I feel. Now, we also want to say what the tool is not. This tool is not, I feel blank when you blank, you need to change. The tool is not, I'm right, you're wrong, you need to change. At least it doesn't work with me anyway. If you remember the example I used of the sliding glass door last week, the easy solution could have been that I just lock the doors from now on, because I've been locking them for the last 5 years. So don't always start with what is the end goal about what the change behavior needs to be. The point of all of these tools is to connect over feelings and have a discussion. The next slide, please. Again, if you're feeling frustrated or perceive an injustice, then we recommend the I desire tool. Again, the I desire tool is not, I desire blank, so therefore you have to agree with me and do it my way. Again, use these tools as a points for connection. Now, what I want to share is, as you heard from Shanae and Hyun, they both felt that they were justified in being angry and the other one was wrong, and that happens a lot. What I want to share is actually more than my marriage, how I've changed and it's affected my primary home. You can change you, but you can't change the other person. So, my father is a stuffer who spews. My mother is a leaker who then spews. My older brother is a stuffer who will then leak because there's too much spewing going on in the household. As I have learned not to spew, as I have learned not to force uncomfortable conversations at the wrong time with people who don't want to have them, as I have stopped getting in the middle of their fights, there is more peace in the household. They have not changed. I changed. And we have more peace in our family of origin. The third tool, please, is if you're feeling threatened or insecure. And for guys, this could also be a form of disrespect. If you're feeling disrespected, you might want to use these questions as well. So let's summarize and start summarizing on the next slide, please. Thank you. So, anger is a choice. Yes, to my fellow spewers, it is a choice. Next, please. Anger is a secondary emotion. As Cody shared, for me, I need to look at sometimes my third emotion to really figure out what's the main emotion that I need to manage at this time. Next, please. We hope you're getting open to the fact that it's not wrong to feel angry. It's what you do with it. Next slide, please. So let's go over what Cody talked about with the tools. This is the overarching Bible verse that can help all situations. First, be quick to listen. Are you being a receptive listener when your spouse is speaking with you? Slow to speak. Are you verbally reflux, which is me and spewing and vomiting words out? Or are you actually not planning what you're going to say before they even finish speaking? Slow to anger. Again, can we all learn, rather than reacting, to actually reflect on what was actually said? So this is the overarching Bible verse and the overarching theme to work on. The next, please, is you start with the ABCDs. And the goal of the ABCDs is to get in touch with your anger and your main emotions. Again, Craig went over this 2 weeks ago. And that process, when I shared with you that I went through the ABCDs and asked those questions in the car, it took me like 3 or 4 minutes. And it's because I've practiced these tools and I know how to use them. And once I get to that emotion, things are pretty easy for me. Find the emotion. Next, after you identify the emotion, you figure out what the primary and appropriate tool is to use. Again, if you're hurt, we recommend using the I feel. When you are frustrated, we recommend using the I desire. And if you're feeling threatened or insecure, we recommend you using those probing questions to consider it. And we really want to leave you with that you can change yourself and you can't change your spouse. But I promise, if you change your anger, the anger in the household will change. So now we're going to go into group time. Now, when you turn the page, especially the table leaders, we're only looking for you to answer questions 1 and 2. We hope that you'll answer these questions with your spouse afterwards at another time. And the goal of this group time is to go through the first question and the second question and have short shares so that maybe everyone can share, but everyone may not be able to share. Then what we're going to do is come back and have a couple exercise again, where you're going to practice the ABCDs on a situation from last week that wasn't with your spouse, because these are individual tools that you need to figure out how to do yourself. So we'll give you about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back up. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go now to page 6 of the handout. And I want to help walk you through this, and I promise we will come back for table time again, but unfortunately it's 12:50. So on the top of page 6, I outline, think about a time when you were or suspect you may have been angry over the last week at someone other than your spouse. Practice the ABCs out loud. The goal for you is to practice the steps so you can use them on your own in the future. Now, I think being the spouse listening is actually harder than being the one speaking, but you're not surprised by that. So we have some suggestions about what not to do. These are all things I've done that don't work. Tell your spouse that they're angry. They don't like to hear it. Or better yet, I tell my husband what emotion he's feeling. Again, not received well. So both of us can fall into telling the spouse what they should have done or what they should do now. That's not what the exercise is about. What we encourage you to do is to ask questions to gain understanding, to encourage them to review the emotional word list themselves, and to reflect back on what your spouse said. And the steps are there, so whether or not it was a coworker, a driver, a kid, someone in the grocery store, if you can think back to a time, what we'd like to do is have you get into couples and just practice going through this. Because each of you will tend to have one of the steps that is hardest for you. Cody mentioned A is hardest for him, C is hardest for me. So if you could break up into couples, then we'll take 5 minutes each to discuss, try this out.